morning, Your Excellencies. My name is Mohamed Vida, the Secretary General of African Union, and here, Madam Brigida Berry, the Deputy Secretary of African Union. It's our honor today to welcome the delegation from the G4 Nation Group, Madam Vienna Jenker, the Secretary of Federation of Germany, and Madam Sachiko Saito, the Deputy Minister of the Foreign Service of Japan. They are on behalf of the contact group of G4 nations, including Germany, Japan, India, and Brazil.
Thank you very much for your welcome. It's also our honor today to be in Ethiopia to attend this meeting. We are with the attendance from the African Union. We, for our part, hope that the outcome of this meeting going to reflect the best interests of our nations as a whole.
As it soon comes to our notice that the central issues of UN Security Council reform are the issue of membership, transparency, working method, and the veto. As agreed in pre-meeting exchange information, we will focus today on the right of veto.
It also comes to our notice that African Union has already have a reasonable consensus on the matter of veto power. So today we would like to have the honor to hear one more time about the latest proposal of the African Union.
To help you to read the common African position on the proposed reform of the United Nations, the Enzo Mini Consensus, Madame Brigida Berry will have you.
Your Excellency, African Union would like to present our consensus on the Security Council reform. Recalling that in 1945, when the UN was being formed, most of Africa was not represented, and that in 1963, when the first reform took place, Africa was represented but was not in a particular strong position. Consensus on the fact that the Harare Declaration has made significant impact on the world community and has thus been fairly reflected in the proposed UN Security Council reforms, adopt the following position. The first, African goal is to be fully represented in all decision-making organs of the UN, particularly in the Security Council, which is the principal decision-making organ of the UN in matters relating to the international peace and security. Second, full representation of Africa in the Security Council means not less than 2 permanent seats with all prerogatives and privileges of permanent membership, including the right of veto, and 5 non-permanent seats. In that regard, even though Africa is opposed in principle to the veto, it is of the view that so long as it exists, and as a matter of the common justice, it should be made available to all permanent members of the Security Council. Fourth, African Union should be responsible for the selection of Africa's representatives in the Security Council. And the last, the question of the criteria for selection of African members of Security Council should be the matter for the African Union to determine, taking into consideration the representatives' measure and capacity of those chosen. And these are our concessions on the Security Council reform.
From my understanding, the African Union still hold on to the same position it used to back in 2005, which is quite a long time ago. It's already about 8 years passing by with very, very little progress in the discussion over the United Nations Security Council reform. And we all know that the reform would never make it without the full participation from the African Union. And especially on the matter of the veto power for the new permanent member from your continent, so we can contrast a new proposal together to make the change happen in the Security Council. We also see that the very fact that the United Nations Security Council's mission is to protect the international peace and security. And one of our most important missions of all is to send out the peacekeeping missions. Recently, we all see that 75% of the peacekeeping mission from the Security Council is deployed in Africa to keep the conflicts under control in Africa. So we really doubt that with the veto power granted to an African permanent member, it could this new member can function properly and fairly in the concern of the peacekeeping mission.
I understand your concern. However, without the veto right, the primary organ to protect international peace and security, which is the Security Council, will lose its most powerful tool. Moreover, it's likely that the chance of success to amend the UN Charter to dismiss the veto right is zero, because 5 permanent members could never try to even look at it, not to say that they will discuss it. So we think that it's impossible to dismiss the veto right from the UN Charter and from the power of permanent members of Security Council.
Your Excellencies, please accuse us to clarify our point of view on this matter. We believe that African Union deserves any respectful representativeness in the United Nations Security Councils. But we also believe that what really important here is the success of our recent reform effort. And without some compromise from our own group as a whole, we cannot persuade the old members of the Security Council, especially the P5, to agree on these matters. We all know that to make an amendment to the current charter, we need to follow the procedures highlighted in the charter itself, which means we need 2/3 of the vote without any denials from the P5 members. And given the current situation of the international politics, we are very clear to ourselves that none of the P5 members would agree any veto power from the African countries. So yes, I believe that Africa deserves better and fairer presence in the UN, but I also believe that we should very, very practical here in this situation and look at what we can do rather than look at what we should do.
Your Excellencies, the purpose of adding 2 more African permanencies in Security Council is to make the Security Council environment more democratic. To add 2 more African seats to the permanent position without granting us the right to veto is unfair, and therefore we don't agree with your position.
Your Excellency, further, I understand your concerns of the involvement of the African Union in the security, in the peacekeeping. However, it will take the prejudice on the African Union when it takes responsibility as the permanent member of the Security Council.
Your Excellency, you stand for the international community view. As your record, all the disputes raised in the African Union. Moreover, the contribution of you economically and politically to the UN Security Council is not well supported. So we're concerned that international community will raise opposition if you African Union had the veto right in the Security Council.
My fellows, we understand, more than anyone, we understand what is prejudice. The prejudice about Germany, about Japan is really great. And not until 2005 that we no longer listed as enemy in the charter. So more than anyone, we know about prejudice. And that's very prejudice. Back in 1945, that all set up here today because we are the underrepresented. And we know that prejudice does exist in this very world. And we feel like you feel very unfair about yourself. We do feel very unfair about us too. But we should understand that why people think like that. Why the international community hold that point of view against us. And we move beyond our difference to accept the prejudice that it is there for us to solve. And we accept it as an issue, and we find a solution to it rather than complain about it. I think that in this way we can push the reform much more effectively. So we really want you to reconsider your options and your point of view about fairness.
Your Excellencies, our concern is that the most different between the non-permanent and permanent without veto right is just the rotation, the time period sitting in the Security Council. But with regard to the power of non-permanent and permanent member without the veto right, they're just the same. And so, if we are dismissed from the veto right, the two new permanent members of Africa will remain powerless. So, our target is cannot be achieved.
From the very situations of the working procedures in Security Council, we all know that if a member retains its position longer in the Council, it can have more time and effort and results also to research well in the matter included in the agenda. Also, you see it is a very case that with the presence of more permanent members from Africa, more issues reflecting the African interests can be put into the agendas. And it's a very good point for you as a group as a whole. And do you want to clarify the difference between the non-permanent members and the permanent member without the veto right? Yes, I agree that veto power is very important. That's why the P5 hold on to it so many years, half a decade. And a lot of things in the world changed, and a lot of things in the world should never happen because of the veto power. Also, a lot of things in the world should have happened, but never happened because of the veto power. We all agree on how powerful it is, and all of us want to get a hold of that. But we once again invite you to give out your concerns, your knowledge, your awareness of our current situations of the international politics to watch your option one more time. Is that practical? Is that sensible to hold on a grip on your right to veto power? Because we all know that you can gain way a lot more. You can be so much greater without it. And if you insist on having it, maybe and properly, and for some of us who are not so diplomatic, we're gonna say it out loud that you will never make anything at all.
Your Excellencies, as we all know that tensions are rising higher than ever in Africa continent. And there are many cases in which the P5 members issues the resolution to impose various sanctions on the African nations. We can give the example of the cases in Libya, Syria. In such situation, we think that we totally reserve a more decisive voice to determine such situation in the continent of Africa.
Sir Vitala, I don't understand your concern. However, as a party interested in the conflict, even you have the right to veto, you couldn't exercise it. And I would like to emphasize that is it worth to pursuing veto right when if including the veto right proposal into the whole package to reform the Security Council, can you get the permanent seat in the Security Council to have the veto right vote? So you can have permanent seat or you have nothing at all. I would like you to consider such by me.
But in regard to many situations in Syria and Libya, I have to recall you that our three potential positions for the permanent Security Council are Egypt, Nigeria, and South Africa. And they are not parties to such disputes, so they could have more determined voice to resolve the situation in African continent, because they are the neighbor of such countries. They have more sharing views, and they have more sympathized to the countries of the Libya and Syria.
We want to remind the delegate from South Africa that not only the party to the dispute should abstain themselves from the vote, but also the wording right here is any party with any possible interest should abstain themselves from the vote. So you don't need to be a direct party in the conflict to be abstain from the vote, but it's in any case in a situation that the Security Council can prove that you cannot play fair and square in your voting, then you should abstain yourself from the vote. And the very fact that you are neighboring to those countries and those areas in conflict really put yourself into the doubt, because we all know that a lot of resources to the conflicting parties are transported through the territories of the possible candidate. And we cannot call themselves as disconnected to the conflict in these situations.
Your Excellency, it is not easy to determine the interests of other parties related to the parties in the conflict. In Africa, there are about 53 countries, and even if the dispute arising in Libya or Syria and another country in Africa may have the interest related, however, with another countries, it is not easy to determine the interest related in that case.
We therefore don't want to discuss any more about the extension vote, but we would like again to draw your attention to the prerequisite condition to have the right to vote, that you have to be a permanent member, and what we discussed today is to make a proposal to gain the permanent seat in the Security Council. And if you insist on your veto vote, you couldn't get the permanent seat in Security Council, the prerequisite condition to have veto right.
Yes, what we want to do here is to give you a reality check of what we can do. We all know that we are all aspire to change this very world, to change this score of the Security Council. But what's really important is not about dreaming, but about what is the reality is. How can you gain much from it? And we all know that if the position of your countries as a whole in African Union do not change about the veto power, then probably we would all fail, and there's nothing that we can achieve or dream anymore.
Bắt đầu rồi.
Your Excellencies, without your support of our appearing in the permanent seat of the Security Council, we still have the chance to receive another vote from other countries. and especially in the present fact that there are about 30 votes of the Security Council issues are from the African countries.
Your Excellency, can I remind you that we are talking about permanent seat, not non-permanent seat. In the permanent seat, if we want to gain a permanent seat, we have to avoid the veto vote from the P5. And do you think that with the veto right proposal, so P5 could agree with you?
I think our negotiation is getting more tougher and tougher. I think that we are here today to help each other on our way to pursue more power in Security Council. And I think we are on the same boat. So why don't we reunite and help each other? And we guarantee you that if we have 2 permanent seats from Africa in the Security Council with the veto right, we will have the G4 nations to have as much as benefit as we can have you.
We actually think that this is a point that we already see to us, and that's exactly where we came here first for cooperation. We travel all the way to Africa with nothing more but the willing to cooperate, and I think that we all agree that our initial proposal, your initial stance on the veto power doesn't work in the way it is now. So probably we should spend some time to make some offers, some alteration in our proposals to make it really work and effective in the upcoming advocacy for reforming United Nations Security Council.
Well, African Union, I believe that there is a less likely chance for us to have the full right of veto in all the matters of the Security Councils. That is why we want to propose to limit our right veto to some situations in the case of genocide, war crime, humanitarian law, with human rights, and especially in the case of the measures set out in the Chapter 7 of the UN Charters, we will waive all the rights of the veto.
We very much welcome the fact that to see your point of on this matter is the use of force under the Chapter 7 of the UN Charters, that you would waive the right, if possible, in the case concerning the use of force under the UN Charter. But also we want to draw your notice to the matter of human rights situations, the humanitarian interventions, or the crime against genocide, or the war crimes against humanity. It's gonna be a great hamper to our effort if you want to insist on the right to vote on such matters, because we all know that the most of the life situations of humanitarian situations, that humanitarian aids and crimes against genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes in general, most of the ones get convicted are the African nationalities. And all of the internal conflicts in African state now are really put us under the risk of being exposed by the international community. Also, it's also notable that the majority of ongoing conflicts on this very earth are happening right in Africa. And the fact that you insist and you ask for the veto power on such matters, I think that's gonna really hamper our effort to get into the Security Council in general. And we also understand that it's gonna be it's already very difficult for us as a whole to make the common proposal. In fact, a lot of countries, a lot of our allies think the idea that we should, the G4 should have a veto power when two others permanent members from Africa should not have the veto power. And of course, the fact that we have such power, we would very much, I would say, we would very much respect and very much love to have. But on the other hand, when we look at the practical matter issues, moreover, we also take the matters of the African Union Group into our heart. And we think that it's better, it's much, much better if we all work in this together, which means either we have it all or we don't have it all. And because we see how much difficult it is for the African state to secure the right to veto, either if the full right to veto or any kind of veto that matters. We see it's very difficult for you in that. So we think that as a group, as partners, as teammates, we should give up the right to veto like you guys should. So we make a proposal that none of the new permanent members should have the right to veto. This do not only show our compassion, our compassion with the African Union, but on the practical side of it, it's going to be much flexible and much easier for the P5, the permanent members to accept us, to accept our entry into these very organizations.
Your Excellency, I once again really appreciate your proposal, but we really raised our concern because the Western countries, especially there are some developed countries like US, UK, France, or even Japan. You promised us a lot, but you haven't done much. So I'm really concerned about how specific your proposal will help us to give us more opportunity to develop more and more.
In general, it's really difficult for us to give out any specific project at the moment to the African Union as a whole, because we all know that we have 54 countries with very different geography, situation of politics, and very different very different source of natural resources. But well, we are not just the one who just make promise. We done a lot. For example, during the last few years, you all see how much India willing to engage with our continent, and Germany also have invested in mining industry, in transportation, in telecommunications, and not only that, but we want to push more investment into Africa. Also, we see that not only this contact group about SC reform, but we think that we should send out more delegation on economic cooperations, more business mission to Africa from our very country to seek out new opportunities for business growth in Africa. And we do not only make promise, we are actually carrying out it. And so I cannot promise anything at the moment, but clearly that some of our governmental organizations and some of our private companies already want to invest into the Trans-Africa's railway project, and also to improve the port along African coast, so that you can transport more. You can export more raw materials into other regions of the world which eventually boosts your economic growth.
Your Excellency, I want to emphasize that our interest of two African permanent members, which is additional to the Security Council, is stick with the right of veto. And on this table, at the very initial stage, we want to have a full, absolute right of veto. And after negotiation, we agreed to minimize and limit it, to have a limited veto right on some certain situation and some certain fields of international politics and international law. And now it's really hard and tough for us to think about the future of with all our veto rights. So it's usually need time for us to get more consultation from our government, and we need time to think about it. But once again, I want to reiterate that our interest is stick with the veto right. And the core purpose of the veto right is to have us more power to gain more international status and development among international community. So please take them into account in your consideration. Thanks.
Your Excellencies, I share the same point of view with Sir Vitada, that G4 and African Union should need more concentration section on for more detail for the economic and other support. And we also want to make sure that Africa feel G4 is always of your great help politically and economically. And finally, despite our differences of the initial proposal about veto power of new permanent member of Security Council, we are really glad to see the willingness of African Union to amend its proposal to be more realistic. And we would like to sit with you in the soonest consultation session for more detail. Thank you.
Your Excellency, we also agree with you that we will spend more time and have more further discussions on this issue. And if it's possible, we would like to meet you again on this session next month to continue to discuss more and more about this tough issue. Thank you very much for your time and your attention today, and we wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Để chị lưu đi ạ, chị lưu đi ạ.